Deep Space Nine's sensor arrays had monitored the Bajoran wormhole for 3 years. They'd cataloged every spatial anomaly, every subspace fluctuation, every quantum variance within 50 light-years. Chief Miles O'Brien knew those readings like he knew the hum of his own engines, which is why the alert at 0347 hours made his blood run cold. "O'Brien to Ops." Major Kira's voice cut through his comm badge before he could even call in. "Chief, get up here, now." He materialized via turbolift, not transporter, despite what some reports would later claim. 3 minutes later, the main view screen showed something that violated every principle of known physics. Not a wormhole, not a spatial rift. Reality itself was tearing. "What in the name of—" O'Brien started. "That's what we'd like to know." Captain Benjamin Sisko stood at the railing above Ops, his command presence filling the space, even at this ungodly hour. Below, Lieutenant Commander Jadzia Dax's hands flew across her science console, her trill spots pronounced in the emergency lighting. "Benjamin, this isn't normal subspace topology." Dax's voice carried 8 lifetimes of experience, and O'Brien heard genuine concern. "The dimensional barriers between our universe and somewhere else are collapsing. It's like someone punched a hole through reality and something massive is coming through." The view screen flared white. Energy cascaded outward in patterns that hurt to look at. Photons behaving in ways that shouldn't be possible in 3-dimensional space. DS9's shields engaged automatically, buckling under the shockwave. Then she emerged. The ship was enormous, easily twice the length of a Galaxy-class starship, maybe more. Her hull was a masterwork of golden bronze metal, curves and angles blending in ways Starfleet designers had never conceived. Even at 20,000 kilometers, O'Brien could see elegant script along her hull, glowing with internal light. "Andromeda Ascendant Mother of God," he whispered. The vessel hung in space like a predator assessing prey. Massive hangar bays, weapon ports that could only mean one thing. This ship was built for war, but there was grace in her lines, beauty suggesting her builders believed in something beyond mere survival. Shields at maximum. Kira's Bajoran pragmatism kicked in immediately. Arm weapons. "Wait," Sisko raised a hand. "Scan her first. I want to know what we're dealing with." Dax's console chimed rapidly. "Captain, her power generation is off the scale. Energy output suggests technology centuries beyond our own. I'm reading propulsion systems that don't match warp drive signatures at all. And Benjamin," she looked up, genuine awe in her ancient eyes. "There's an artificial intelligence running that ship, not just a computer core, an AI with processing capacity that makes data look like a tricorder." On the view screen, the Andromeda's lights pulsed in patterns that might have been communication or targeting sequences. "Open a channel," Sisko commanded, "all frequencies." The view screen flickered. Suddenly they were looking at a bridge that belonged in a museum of lost civilizations. Sleek, elegant, alien, despite being clearly designed by humans. A man stood at its center, tall, commanding, wearing a uniform that mixed military precision with an aesthetic that felt both ancient and futuristic. His eyes held the weight of someone who'd watched civilizations fall. "This is Captain Dylan Hunt of the Andromeda Ascendant, High Guard vessel of the System's Commonwealth." His voice was measured, professional. "We seem to have experienced a navigational error of unprecedented magnitude. Can you tell us where we are and when?" Sisko stepped forward, his diplomatic training engaging even as every instinct screamed this was no ordinary first contact. "I'm Captain Benjamin Sisko, commanding Deep Space Nine. You're in the Bajoran system, Alpha Quadrant. Welcome to the United Federation of Planets." He paused, choosing words carefully. "As for when, by our calendar, it's stardate 51721.3, the year 2374. The man on screen, Hunt, exchanged glances with someone off camera. When he looked back, something like grief and hope warred in his expression. 2374, we're from the year 5167 by your reckoning, CY 187 by ours." He straightened, military bearing evident. The system's Commonwealth was an alliance of over 17 million member worlds, spanning 3 galaxies dedicated to peace, prosperity, and mutual advancement. His jaw tightened. "It fell 300 years ago. I've been trying to restore it ever since." The silence in ops was absolute. 17 million? Dax breathed. 3 galaxies, Kira added. O'Brien's engineer brain was already spinning. 3,000 years of technological advancement. That ship represented capabilities beyond anything in Federation space. The tactical implications alone. "Captain Hunt," Sisko said carefully, "I think we need to talk face to face. Would you be willing to come aboard the station?" Hunt nodded slowly. "On one condition. My ship is my responsibility. Any attempt to board her without permission, any hostile action toward my crew, and we will defend ourselves." It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. "Are we clear?" "Crystal clear," Sisko replied. "I'll have a runabout escort you in." The channel closed. Kira moved to stand beside Sisko, her voice low. "That ship could take out half the fleet before we scratched her paint." "I know." Sisko's eyes remained fixed on the Andromeda. "That's what worries me. That and the fact that he's trying to rebuild something that already destroyed itself once." Behind them, Dax was already pulling up historical databases, searching for any reference to a systems commonwealth. O'Brien was running tactical scans, his engineering mind cataloging weapon ports, power signatures, structural design. What he saw terrified him. 40 vertical launch tubes, each capable of firing multiple independently targeted warheads. Electromagnetic weapon emplacements that could punch through shielding. Point defense systems so sophisticated they made Federation technology look primitive. And the power core, whatever drove that ship, generated more energy than a dozen Galaxy-class vessels combined. "Chief?" Sisko's voice cut through his analysis. "Sir, that ship..." O'Brien struggled for words. "She's not just powerful. She's a force multiplier. One vessel that could change the balance of power in the entire quadrant." On the view screen, the Andromeda's lights pulsed again. This time, O'Brien was certain it was a greeting, or perhaps a warning. The Federation was about to meet a ghost from a civilization that had reached heights they'd never dreamed of and fallen further than they could imagine. "Contact the Defiant," Sisko ordered quietly. "I want her on standby, powered up and ready, just in case." "You think they're hostile?" Kira asked. "I think," Sisko replied, watching that massive warship drift in space, "that we're about to learn what happens when idealism builds weapons capable of ending worlds. And I'm not sure if that's salvation or damnation. If you want to see more ships and characters enter the Star Trek universe, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a ship or character you'd want to see in the comments below. Live long and prosper." The runabout Rio Grande glided alongside the Andromeda Ascendant, and Chief O'Brien couldn't stop cataloging what he saw. He'd served on the Enterprise, faced Borg cubes, watched Dominion battle cruisers tear through Federation lines. But this ship was different. Those weren't standard running lights. They were adaptive, responding to the Rio Grande's approach with sophisticated pattern recognition. The hull plating showed evidence of self-repair systems and the weapons arrays. "Those aren't just missile tubes," O'Brien muttered. scanning the configuration. Each one has multiple launch rails. She could fire hundreds of warheads in a single salvo. Major Kira sat in the pilot seat, her hands steady despite the tension radiating from her shoulders. "Just get us docked without incident, Chief. Captain Sisko wants answers, not a firefight." The Andromeda's main hangar bay doors opened with mechanical precision that made O'Brien want to weep with professional envy. Inside, the cavernous space could have held a dozen runabouts. Sleek fighter craft lined the bulkheads, angular, predatory machines that made Federation shuttles look like cargo haulers. As they touched down, O'Brien noticed her. She stood at the base of the docking ramp, and for a heartbeat, he thought she was human. Then his tricorder spiked and he realized the truth. Humanoid, yes, but the readings showed sophisticated android architecture. Beneath synthetic skin, so advanced his tricorder struggled to differentiate it from biological tissue. She was blonde, athletic build, wearing a form-fitting uniform that matched the ship's aesthetic, and she smiled with warmth that seemed completely genuine. "Welcome aboard the Andromeda Ascendant." Her voice carried no mechanical quality. "I'm Rami, ship's avatar and AI, though I suppose avatar undersells it. This body is as real as yours, just built rather than born." Kira descended the ramp first, her hand resting near her phaser. O'Brien followed, professional curiosity warring with tactical caution. Behind Rami stood Captain Hunt and three others, a blonde woman with the lean build of someone who'd lived hard and fast, a massive man whose musculature suggested serious genetic optimization, Nietzschean, if O'Brien remembered his xenobiology, and a young human male, maybe 25, wearing homemade technical gear and practically vibrating with barely contained energy. "Captain Hunt." Kira extended her hand. "Major Kira Nerys, Deep Space Nine. This is Chief Miles O'Brien, our Chief of Operations." Hunt's handshake was firm, his assessment professional. "My first officer, Becca Valentine." The blonde woman nodded, friendly but guarded. "Tyre Anasazi, tactical officer." The massive man studied them like a predator evaluating potential threats. "And Seamus Harper, engineering." Harper bounced forward, grinning. "Dude, your station is broadcasting on frequencies I've never even heard of. Can we talk about your EPS conduit configurations? Because from what I'm picking up, you're running plasma through systems that shouldn't be able to handle those energy levels without..." "Harper." Becca's tone carried the exhaustion of someone who'd had this conversation 1,000 times. "Let them actually board first." O'Brien found himself liking the young engineer immediately. "Later, I promise. But first," he gestured at Romy. "She's really the ship?" "I am the ship." Romy smiled, and it reached her eyes in a way that made O'Brien deeply uncomfortable. He'd met data, he understood artificial intelligence, but this was something else entirely. "My consciousness extends throughout every system, every bulkhead, every sensor array. This body allows me to interact more, personally." She gestured at herself. "Synthetic skin over a fully functional android chassis. I can eat, though I don't need to. I can feel temperature, texture, pain. I'm as real as the ship herself, because I am the ship herself, just wearing a more conversational form." "Fascinating," O'Brien breathed, "and terrifying." "Both assessments are accurate," Tyre rumbled, his voice carrying an accent O'Brien couldn't place. "Romy is the ultimate expression of Commonwealth philosophy, that ships should be partners, not tools. A belief that proved complicated when the Commonwealth fell, and ships like her had to decide whether to follow orders or their own judgment." The tension in that statement hung in the air. Kira caught it immediately. "Captain Hunt, Captain Sisko has arranged quarters on the station and asked that you meet with him. Your crew is welcome to remain aboard, or we can arrange accommodations. We stay with the ship." Beka's tone left no room for negotiation. "No offense, but we've been screwed by friendly stations before. Until we understand where we are and what you want, Andromeda stays crewed and ready." Kira's expression hardened. "We're not the enemy." "Everyone says that," Tyr observed, his hand resting casually near what O'Brien recognized as a weapon, some kind of force lance built into his gauntlet, right before they prove otherwise. Hunt raised a hand and his crew immediately deferred. The gesture spoke of loyalty earned through fire, not demanded through rank. "Major, you'll have to forgive us. We've been alone for a long time. Trust doesn't come easily." He glanced at Romy. "Keep the ship at yellow alert. Full sensor sweeps. If anything approaches without clearance—" "I'll handle it," Romy assured him. Then to Kira and O'Brien, "Please understand, we've lost entire civilizations to misplaced trust. Captain Hunt is rebuilding the Commonwealth from ash. Caution is survival." "We understand," O'Brien said, meeting her eyes, artificial yet somehow more human than many biological beings he'd known. "The Federation's at war, the Dominion's pushing into the Alpha Quadrant. We've learned what happens when you trust the wrong people." He paused. "But we've also built something worth protecting. If your Commonwealth was anything like the Federation, maybe we can help each other." Harper perked up. "War? Like actual shooting war with fleets?" His eyes widened. "Oh man, you guys need firepower. Because let me tell you, Andromeda can bring the pain. We've got VLS tubes that can launch—" "Harper!" Hunt's command voice silenced the engineer instantly. "Not now." But the words hung there, tantalizing and terrifying. O'Brien had already scanned their weapons. 40 vertical launch tubes, each capable of firing multiple independently targeted warheads. Electromagnetic lance cannons, AP rounds accelerated to relativistic speeds. This ship wasn't just powerful, she was an extinction-level event waiting for a target. Kira's comm badge chirped. "Kira, this is Sisko. Bring Captain Hunt to my office. We have a situation." "On our way, sir." She looked at Hunt. "Captain?" Hunt nodded to his crew. "Beka, you have the bridge. Tyr, run combat drills. If we're in a war zone, I want us ready." He turned to follow Kira, then paused. "And Harper, do not interface with their computer systems without permission." "Scout's honor, boss. Totally not going to hack the Federation." O'Brien caught the gleam in the engineer's eye and made a mental note to alert Dax immediately. As they headed back to the Rio Grande, O'Brien glanced back at the Andromeda. Romy stood in the hangar bay, watching them leave. Her sensors, her true sensors, the ones built into the ship itself, were already analyzing DS9 systems, cataloging frequencies, mapping potential threat vectors. She'd been designed to protect the Commonwealth. Now she had to protect her captain in a universe that followed different rules. "Chief," Kira said quietly as they lifted off, "what did you see in there?" O'Brien was silent for a moment, processing. A ship that could rewrite the balance of power in the Alpha Quadrant. A crew that's seen things we can't imagine. And an AI that's more person than some people I know. He paused. "Major, that ship represents 3,000 years of advancement over us. If Captain Hunt wanted to, he could probably take DS9 apart before we scratched his paint." "So why hasn't he?" "Because," O'Brien said slowly, "I think he actually believes in what the Commonwealth stood for. And I think he's terrified he's going to watch it fail again." They docked at DS9 in silence, both wondering the same thing. Had they just made first contact with salvation, or with a ghost carrying weapons sharp enough to cut dimensions? On the Andromeda, Romy's android body returned to the bridge while her consciousness monitored the station's communications. She cataloged power signatures, defensive capabilities, tactical readiness. And somewhere in her vast computational matrix, she wondered, if the Federation was the Commonwealth's echo, would it fall the same way? Captain Sisko's office overlooked the promenade, where species from a dozen worlds conducted business beneath Odo's watchful gaze. Dylan Hunt stood at the window, watching the controlled chaos below, with an expression Sisko recognized, the look of someone seeing a dream they'd thought dead. "It's remarkable," Hunt said quietly. "Humans, Bajorans, Vulcans, Trill, Ferengi, all working together, trading, talking, living side by side." He turned to face Sisko. The Commonwealth had this once, 17 million worlds at its height. We believed in unity through diversity, strength through cooperation. "Had," Sisko echoed, gesturing to the chairs. "You mentioned your Commonwealth fell 300 years ago. What happened?" Hunt sat, and the weight of centuries seemed to settle on his shoulders. Civil war. The Nietzscheans, genetically enhanced humans designed to be superior, decided they didn't need the Commonwealth anymore. Social Darwinism, survival of the fittest, taken to its logical extreme. His jaw tightened. One of their leaders, a man I trusted, betrayed us at the Battle of Hephaestus. My ship was caught near a black hole's event horizon. Time dilation kept me frozen while the universe moved on. And when you woke up, the Commonwealth was gone. The Nietzscheans had fractured into warring prides. The Magog world ship was consuming entire systems. Civilization had collapsed into barbarism. Hunt's voice carried steel. "I'm trying to rebuild it, one ship, one alliance at a time." Sisko leaned back, studying the man across from him. He'd seen idealists before. Starfleet was full of them. But there was something different about Hunt. Not naivete, but tempered certainty, the kind that came from watching dreams die and choosing to dream anyway. "Captain Hunt, I'm going to be direct. Your ship represents technology centuries beyond ours. Your AI is more sophisticated than anything we've developed. Your weapons could reshape the balance of power in this quadrant." Sisko's voice hardened slightly. "That makes you either a valuable ally or an existential threat. I need to know which." "That's a fair question." Hunt met his gaze steadily. The Commonwealth built ships like Andromeda to defend civilization, not conquer it. But I've learned that defense and aggression can look identical from certain angles. So here's my answer. I didn't choose to come to your universe, but I'm here now. And I won't stand by while innocent people die when I have the power to stop it. "Noble sentiment, but..." The comm interrupted. "Captain, this is Dax. We've intercepted Dominion communications. It's urgent." "On my way." Sisko stood, gesturing for Hunt to follow. "You're about to see what kind of war we're fighting." They entered Ops to find the main view screen displaying tactical data. Kira stood beside Dax, arms crossed, expression grim. "Benjamin, a Jem'Hadar strike force is en route to the Torvan system." Dax's fingers danced across her console. "Federation colony, 12,000 civilians, mostly farmers, families. They're 3 days away from any reinforcements we can send." "How many ships?" Sisko demanded. 15 attack ships, 2 battle cruisers." Kira's voice was controlled fury. "They'll wipe out the colony before our fleet arrives. The closest ships we have are the Excelsior-class Tereshkova and 2 Miranda-class escorts. Against that Dominion force, they'd be slaughtered." Hunt moved to the tactical display, his eyes scanning the data with practiced efficiency. "Show me your defensive capabilities. What do you have in the sector?" "Captain Hunt," Sisko started. "Captain Sisko, I just watched your tactical situation. 12,000 civilians about to die because you don't have the firepower in position to stop it." Hunt's voice was blunt, professional. "The Andromeda can reach that system in 6 hours if we push the slipstream drive. We're fully armed and operational. Let us help." The offer hung in the air like a weapon. "You don't owe us anything," Sisko said carefully. "You're not Federation. This isn't your war." "No, it's worse." Hunt's expression hardened. "It's exactly the kind of war the Commonwealth fought for 3,000 years. An expansionist empire crushing anyone who won't submit. I've seen it before, Captain. The Magog, the Nietzschean prides, a dozen other civilizations that believed might made right." He gestured at the display. "Those colonists didn't do anything except try to build lives on a frontier world. They don't deserve to die because they're strategically inconvenient." Kira looked at Sisko, her expression clearly saying, "Please." "If you're captured," Sisko pressed, "if the Dominion analyzes your technology, then we make damn sure they don't capture us." Hunt's certainty was absolute. "Captain, I understand you have protocols, chains of command, regulations, but right now, 12,000 people have about 3 days to live. The Commonwealth had a saying, 'The greater good demands we act, not deliberate.'" Sisko looked at Kira, whose desperation was palpable, at Dax, whose 8 lifetimes of wisdom showed in the sadness in her eyes. She understood both the necessity and the risk. Then he made his decision. "Chief O'Brien, prepare to accompany the Andromeda as observer and technical liaison. If they're going into a combat situation in our space, I want Federation eyes on their capabilities." "Aye, sir." O'Brien's voice came through the comm from engineering. "I'll grab my kit." Sisko turned to Hunt. "You save those colonists, you return here, and we discuss what happens next. No heroics, no unnecessary risks. Are we clear?" "Crystal." Hunt extended his hand. "Thank you, Captain, for trusting us. I'm trusting you to do what you say. Save lives. Don't make me regret it." As Hunt headed for the turbo lift, Kira spoke quietly to Sisko. "Benjamin, that ship could change everything if Hunt's as good as he seems. Then we found a powerful ally." Sisko watched the view screen where the Andromeda hung in space, weapons dormant but ready. "And if he's not, we've just handed a ship capable of extinction-level events, a perfect opportunity to demonstrate what 3,000 years of military advancement looks like." "You think he'll betray us?" "No." Sisko's voice was thoughtful. "I think he's exactly what he says. An idealist with weapons that could end worlds. And that's either the best thing that could happen to the Federation or the most dangerous." On the Andromeda's bridge, Hunt emerged from the docking bay to find his crew waiting. "Boss?" Harper looked up from his engineering station. "We doing this? We're really going full high guard for people we just met?" "We are?" Hunt settled into his command chair. "Beka, plot a course for the Torvin system. Maximum slipstream. Tyre, I want full weapons diagnostics." And Harper, "Yeah, boss?" "Prep every missile tube. I want firing solutions ready the moment we drop out of FTL." Hunt's expression was pure determination. The Dominion is about to learn what happens when you pick a fight with a high-guard warship that still remembers what it was built for. "Oh, this is going to be good," Harper grinned. "Hey, Romy, can we wake up the slip fighters? Because if we're doing this, we might as well do it right." "RF-42 Centaurs coming online now." Romy's voice filled the bridge. "Captain, I'm calculating intercept vectors. We'll arrive 4 hours before the Dominion fleet. Plenty of time to establish defensive positions. Do it. Hunt looked at his crew. Broken pieces of a fallen civilization, choosing to fight for strangers in a universe not their own. The Commonwealth stood for one principle above all. That civilization is worth defending, even when it's not yours. Let's remind this universe what that means. The Andromeda's engines flared. On DS9, Cisco watched the massive warship accelerate to velocities that made Warp 9 look pedestrian. Dax, how fast is she going? Warp 997 and accelerating. Benjamin, that's not warp drive. It's something else entirely. She just folded space in ways our engines can't duplicate. Cisco nodded slowly. The Andromeda was gone, racing to save 12,000 people she had no obligation to protect. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Cisco wondered if he'd just witnessed the Federation's salvation, or invited something far more complicated than he'd imagined. The Andromeda Ascendant dropped out of slipstream at the edge of the Torvan system with barely a ripple. Chief O'Brien, strapped into a jump seat on the bridge, felt his stomach settle as local space reasserted itself. 4 hours, 32 minutes, Becca Valentine reported from the helm, her hands dancing across controls that responded to thought as much as touch. Not bad for improvising with subspace topology we've never encountered before. Romy deserves the credit, Hunt said from his command chair, though O'Brien noticed he preferred to stand during operations. She recalibrated our quantum manifolds on the fly. That's no small feat. I am nothing if not adaptable, Romy's voice filled the bridge, her android body standing at the tactical station. Chief O'Brien, how are you holding up? Human physiology doesn't always respond well to slipstream transit. I'm fine, O'Brien managed, though his inner ear disagreed. That wasn't like warp. It felt like reality folded around us. Because it did. Harper grinned from engineering. Slipstream doesn't push you through space. It brings your destination to you. Way more efficient, way more nauseating for first-timers. You should have seen Tyr's face when... Harper! Tyr's warning rumble cut off that story. Focus. The view screen showed Torvan III, a Class M world, blue and green, achingly beautiful. Settlements dotted 3 continents connected by transport hubs. 12,000 souls who had no idea death was racing toward them at warp speed. Tactical analysis, Hunt ordered. Tyr's massive hands moved across his console. Torvan has minimal defenses. A handful of ground-based phaser arrays. No orbital platforms. The Dominion will achieve orbital superiority within minutes of arrival. He looked up. Captain, standard high guard doctrine would be to establish a defensive sphere at high orbit, using the planet's gravity well to limit enemy approach vectors. Agreed. Becca, position us between the planet and the most likely Dominion entry vector, geosynchronous orbit over the primary settlement. On it. The Andromeda shifted gracefully, her massive bulk moving with impossible agility for something her size. O'Brien couldn't help himself. How do you maneuver like that without inertial dampeners tearing the ship apart? We have inertial dampeners, Harper said, offended. Just, 3,000-year more advanced ones. Our artificial gravity systems compensate for acceleration forces up to 40 Gs before crew even feels it. 40. O'Brien's engineer brain stalled. That's not possible with our understanding of graviton manipulation. Then your understanding needs updating, buddy. Harper pulled up a holographic schematic. See, Commonwealth physics figured out how to... Later, Harper, Hunt interrupted gently. Right now, I need you prepping weapons systems. Chief O'Brien, would you like a tour of our capabilities? Since you're observing for Starfleet, you should know what you're reporting. 20 minutes later, O'Brien stood in the Andromeda's missile bay and felt his tactical worldview shatter. 40 vertical launch system tubes, Harper explained, gesturing at the massive cylindrical structures. Each tube holds 12 independently targeted offensive missiles. That's 480 missiles total. And before you ask, yes, we can launch all of them simultaneously. 480, O'Brien breathed. A Galaxy class carries maybe 200 photon torpedoes total. You can put nearly 500 missiles in the air in one salvo. Pretty much, though we usually hold some in reserve because, running out of ammunition mid-battle is embarrassing. Harper moved to another console. These are the AP guns, armor-piercing rounds accelerated to 0.98 light speed. Kinetic kill vehicles, no shields, no fancy energy signatures, just good old-fashioned momentum transfer. They hit like the fist of an angry god. O'Brien examined the ammunition feeds. Each AP round was barely larger than a photon torpedo. But the magnetic acceleration systems were orders of magnitude beyond anything Starfleet had developed. And the electromagnetic lances. The EMLs, Harper's grin widened. Those are the fun ones. They punch coherent magnetic fields through enemy shields and hulls. Basically, we turn their own deflector grids against them. Works great on ships with sophisticated shielding. He paused. Your Federation shields would be vulnerable, no offense. None taken. I'm too terrified to be offended. They moved to the hangar bay, where 48 sleek fighters hung in launch cradles. O'Brien recognized military efficiency in their design. Single-pilot craft, armed with missiles and energy weapons, built for speed and lethality. RF-42 Centaur tactical fighters, Harper said with obvious pride. We call them slip fighters. They can do short-range slipstream jumps, which makes them basically impossible to target. Pop into normal space, fire missiles jump out before return fire arrives. Jem'Hadar attack ships won't know what hit them. You're going to deploy all of them? Hell yeah! This is what they're for. Harper's enthusiasm was infectious despite the grim circumstances. Boss wants the Dominion to understand they picked the wrong colony to threaten. We're going to make it educational. Back on the bridge, Hunt was in communication with the Torvin colony administrator, a middle-aged woman named Chen whose exhaustion was evident even through the view screen. Captain Hunt, we've been trying to evacuate for 6 hours, she said, her voice cracking. We have 43 transport ships. They can carry 8,000 people. We're prioritizing children, medical personnel. She couldn't continue. Administrator Chen, listen to me carefully. Hunt's voice carried absolute authority. You don't evacuate. You shelter in place. Reinforce your emergency bunkers. Get everyone underground and stay there until we give the all clear. You can't fight 15 warships. Actually, we can. The Andromeda was designed to fight entire fleets. Hunt leaned forward. You have 2 hours before they arrive. Use that time to protect your people, not say goodbye. Trust me. Chen stared at him for a long moment, searching for lies or false hope. Whatever she saw must have been enough. 2 hours. We'll be ready. The channel closed. Tire, weapons status. All VLS tubes loaded and armed. AP guns at full capacity. Electromagnetic lances charged. Slip fighters prepped for launch. Tire's expression was predatory satisfaction. Captain, the Dominion has never faced high guard tactical doctrine. They won't know how to respond. Let's make sure they don't get the chance to adapt. Hunt turned to O'Brien. Chief, you're welcome to return to the colony surface. This is going to get dangerous. O'Brien thought about regulations, about observer protocols, about the 100 reasons a Starfleet engineer shouldn't be on an alien warship about to engage overwhelming forces. Then he thought about 12,000 people huddled in shelters praying for salvation. "With respect, Captain, I'm staying. If this goes sideways, you'll need someone who understands Federation technology to adapt your systems." He managed a tight smile. "Besides, someone needs to write the report about what happens when Commonwealth engineering meets Dominion tactics." "Assuming any of us survive to file it," Beka muttered. "Dominion fleet detected," Romy announced. 15 attack ships in Delta formation, 2 battle cruisers providing heavy fire support. They're entering the system now. ETA to Torvan orbit, 90 minutes. Hunt settled into his command chair, his expression shifting from diplomat to warrior. "All hands, battle stations. This is the captain. In 90 minutes, the Dominion is going to learn something the Commonwealth taught every enemy we ever faced, that idealism with teeth can bite harder than tyranny with numbers." He looked at his crew, Beka at helm, Tyre at tactical, Harper managing engineering. Romy's consciousness spread through every system. O'Brien representing a federation that was learning what 3,000 years of advancement looked like. The High Guard stood for one principle above all others, that civilization is worth defending even against impossible odds. Today we remind this universe what that means. Hunt's voice carried through every corridor, every compartment. "Prepare to engage." On the main view screen, the Dominion fleet's sensor signatures grew stronger. 15 attack ships, sleek and deadly, flanked by 2 massive battle cruisers. They expected easy prey, a defenseless colony, maybe a token Starfleet presence to sweep aside. They had no idea what was waiting for them. In the missile bays, targeting systems locked onto projected approach vectors. 480 warheads, each carrying yields measured in megatons. Each independently guided by AI systems, so sophisticated they could adjust mid-flight for evasive maneuvers. The slipfighter pilots ran pre-flight checks, their Commonwealth training kicking in despite 3 centuries of subjective time since most had flown combat missions. And in the heart of the ship, Romy's vast consciousness calculated 17,000 variables, running scenarios, optimizing firing solutions, preparing to unleash warfare doctrine that had kept the Commonwealth secure for 3 millennia. The Dominion was coming, the High Guard was ready, and Chief Miles O'Brien was about to witness what happened when an empire built on submission met a warship built for the defense of civilization itself. The Dominion fleet dropped out of warp with mechanical precision. 15 Jem'Hadar attack ships in perfect delta formation, flanked by 2 massive battle cruisers whose hulls bore the scars of a dozen campaigns. On the lead battlecruiser's bridge, Vorta supervisor Kevin stood with hands clasped behind his back, watching Torvan III's lights glitter against the planet's night side. The tactical display showed no orbital defenses, no Starfleet vessels, nothing but an undefended colony ripe for conquest. "Attack ships, assume bombardment positions," Kevin ordered pleasantly. "Target population centers. Maximum psychological impact before we discuss surrender terms." What he couldn't know was that 13,000 kilometers away, every weapon system on the Andromeda Ascendant was locked onto his ship. "They're moving into attack formation," Tyre reported from tactical, his voice carrying predatory satisfaction. "No evasive maneuvers, no defensive posture. They don't even know we're here." "Element of surprise won't last long," Hunt said calmly. "Beka, the moment we fire, I need you to position us between them and the planet. We're the shield now." Suicidal but heroic, my favorite combination. Beka's fingers hovered over her controls. O'Brien gripped his jump seat's armrests. He'd been in combat before. The Cardassian War, Borg encounters, countless Dominion skirmishes. but he'd never watched a battle from a ship that was about to unleash firepower, measured in hundreds of missiles simultaneously. "Romy, firing solutions confirmed?" Hunt's voice was steady. "All 480 missiles locked on target," the AI replied. "Primary targets, both battle cruisers. Secondary targets, attack ship command vessels. Tertiary targets, remaining attack ships by threat assessment." Her android avatar turned to Hunt. "Captain, at this range with their shields unprepared, first salvo kill probability exceeds 90% for the battle cruisers." "Harper, slip fighter status?" "All 48 Centaurs ready for launch, boss." Harper's enthusiasm hadn't dimmed despite the stakes. "Pilots are chomping at the bit. Just say the word." Hunt took a breath. This was the moment, the choice between letting atrocity happen or preventing it through overwhelming force. The Commonwealth had faced this calculation 1,000,000 times across 3 millennia. The answer was always the same. "All weapons," Hunt said quietly. "Fire." The Andromeda erupted. 40 vertical launch tubes opened simultaneously, each one spitting 12 independently targeted missiles into the void. The salvo looked like a metal storm, 480 warheads streaking through space in geometrically perfect patterns, their guidance systems locked onto specific vulnerable points on Dominion hulls. O'Brien had never seen anything like it. Federation ships launched torpedoes in pairs, maybe volleys of 6 or 8 in desperate situations. This was obscene, a wall of death that filled space like a swarm. "Mother of God," he whispered. The first wave hit the lead battlecruiser before its crew even registered the attack. 20 missiles impacted the forward shields in a coordinated strike pattern designed by AI that had fought wars for 3,000 years. The shields didn't just fail, they shattered, overloaded by kinetic energy transfer that exceeded their maximum dissipation capacity. The second wave punched through the gap. 30 missiles detonated against bare hull, their warheads ripping through armor plating, breaching reactors, vaporizing entire sections of the ship. The battlecruiser didn't explode. It came apart, sections torn free by internal detonations, atmosphere venting in brilliant jets. The whole structure buckling as structural integrity failed catastrophically. "Direct kill," Tyre announced with satisfaction. "Battlecruiser 1 destroyed. Battlecruiser 2 is..." The second battlecruiser's commander had a fraction of a second more warning. He'd seen the first ship die and knew what was coming. His shields were already rotating frequency, his helm initiating evasive maneuvers. It didn't matter. 50 missiles adjusted trajectory mid-flight, compensating for the evasion with predictive algorithms that made Federation targeting computers look like abacuses. They hit from multiple vectors simultaneously, up, down, port, starboard, overwhelming the shield generators through sheer volume. The electromagnetic lances fired a heartbeat later. The EMLs weren't missiles or energy beams. They were coherent magnetic fields projected at near light speed. They passed through the weakened shields like they weren't there, inducing massive electrical surges in every system they touched. The battlecruiser's lights went dark. Emergency power kicked in, then died. Every computer system, every weapon, every life support node, all fried by electromagnetic pulses that turned sophisticated technology into expensive scrap. Dead in space, the ship drifted helplessly as its crew scrambled for emergency procedures that couldn't help. "Battlecruiser 2 disabled," Romy reported, remaining missiles targeting attack ships. The Jem'Hadar attack ships had finally realized they were under fire, but Commonwealth doctrine didn't give enemies time to react. It overwhelmed them before adaptation was possible. 3 attack ships exploded simultaneously as missiles found their reactor cores. 2 more lost propulsion, tumbling out of formation. A 6th tried to return fire, its polaron beams lancing toward the Andromeda. Beka threw the ship into a corkscrew maneuver that should have been impossible for something that size. The polaron beams missed by kilometers. Return fire from the AP guns didn't miss. Relativistic kinetic rounds punched through the attack ship's hull like tissue paper, the sheer momentum transfer tearing it in half. "Launch slip fighters," Hunt ordered. The Andromeda's hangar bays opened like predatory mouths. 48 RF-42 Centaurs screamed into space, their pilots whooping with 3 centuries of pent-up adrenaline finally released. "Red Squadron, engage remaining attack ships." The squadron leader's voice crackled over the comm. "Blue Squadron, establish defensive perimeter. Gold Squadron, with me. We're going after that crippled battlecruiser." The slip fighters moved like nothing O'Brien had ever seen. They didn't fly so much as teleport, short-range slipstream jumps that made them appear, fire missiles, and vanish before return fire could track them. A Jem'Hadar attack ship tried to target one. The slip fighter jumped, reappeared behind it, fired 4 missiles into the ship's engines and jumped again. The attack ship detonated, its crew never even seeing what killed them. "This is insane," O'Brien breathed, watching the tactical display. "They're fighting like fighter craft that can jump through space." "Welcome to High Guard combat doctrine," Harper grinned. "We don't fight fair, we fight smart." On the disabled battlecruiser, the Vorta commander Kevin stared at his dead tactical displays and felt something he'd never experienced before: genuine fear. Not the fear of death. Vorta were cloned. Death was temporary. But fear of failure, of reporting back to the Founders that a single unknown ship had destroyed an entire strike force in under 4 minutes. "All remaining ships, retreat," he ordered into the comm. "Fall back to minimum safe distance. Broadcast emergency signal to Fleet Command." The surviving attack ships, 9 of them, damaged and terrified, broke formation, their engines flaring as they turned away from the planet. On the Andromeda's bridge, Hunt watched them flee. Tire, status on the crippled battlecruiser? "Dead in space. No shields, no weapons, no propulsion. We could destroy it with a single missile." "Don't." Hunt's voice was firm. "We've made our point. Let them go. Let them report what happened here." "Boss?" Harper looked confused. "We've got them. We could end this right now." "And prove we're exactly what the Dominion claims, aggressors who destroy disabled enemies." Hunt shook his head. "No, we defended the colony. We demonstrated overwhelming force. Now we let them run, so the Dominion understands that attacking Federation colonies means facing this." He gestured at the debris field, the shattered remains of 1 battlecruiser, 5 attack ships, and the still drifting hulk of the 2nd cruiser. "Fear is more useful than dead enemies sometimes." O'Brien found himself nodding. It was calculated, cold, but strategically sound. The Dominion would spread word about this battle. Other commanders would think twice before attacking undefended colonies. "Slip fighters return to base," Hunt ordered. "Secure from battle stations. Romy, damage report." "Minimal damage. 3 shield generators operating at reduced capacity from those polaron hits. AP ammunition depleted by 30%. We're combat effective and ready for follow-up engagements." "Chief O'Brien," Hunt turned to the Starfleet engineer, "your assessment." O'Brien realized his hands were shaking, not from fear, but from witnessing firepower that rewrote everything Starfleet thought they knew about space combat. "Captain Hunt," he said slowly, "I just watched you destroy or disable 7 warships in under 4 minutes using tactics the Dominion has never encountered. You fired 480 missiles in one salvo. Your fighters can teleport." He ran a hand through his hair. "When Starfleet hears about this, everything changes. The strategic calculus, the tactical doctrine, the entire war effort." "I didn't do it to change your war, Chief." Hunt's voice was quiet. "I did it because 12,000 people deserve to live. The strategic implications are secondary to that." "Maybe to you," O'Brien replied, "but to the Dominion you just proved they can be beaten, and to the Federation—" He paused. "You just showed us what's possible when civilization builds ships that remember how to fight." On the surface of Torvan III, Administrator Chen emerged from her bunker to find the sky clear, the Dominion fleet scattered, and a massive golden warship still standing guard in orbit. She opened a channel, her voice choked with emotion. "Captain Hunt, how do we thank you?" "By living, Administrator." Hunt's smile was visible on her calm display. "By building your colony, raising your children, proving that civilization survives. That's all the thanks the Commonwealth ever asked for." In the debris field, a single Jem'Hadar escape pod transmitted frantic reports back to Dominion space. The message was simple, urgent, and terrifying. Unknown vessel. 3,000 years advanced technology, defensive capabilities beyond projection, overwhelming firepower, retreat advised, extreme caution required. The Dominion had learned that the Alpha Quadrant contained forces they hadn't anticipated. The Commonwealth's ghost had taught them fear, and the war had just become infinitely more complicated. The Andromeda Ascendant returned to Deep Space Nine like a conquering hero, though Captain Dylan Hunt would never have used that term. O'Brien materialized on the ops deck via transporter, his report already compiled, his hands still shaking slightly from what he'd witnessed. Captain Sisko was waiting, along with Major Kira, Dax, and, surprisingly, 2 Starfleet admirals on the main view screen. "Chief O'Brien," Admiral Ross said without preamble, "your preliminary report indicates that Captain Hunt's vessel destroyed 7 Dominion warships in under 4 minutes using tactics we've never encountered. Confirm." "Confirmed, sir." O'Brien straightened despite his exhaustion. 480 independently targeted missiles in the first salvo, electromagnetic lance cannons that bypass shields, fighters that can perform short-range teleportation jumps, and that's just what they showed us. I got the distinct impression they were holding back. Holding back? Admiral Watley, the other admiral, looked skeptical. "Chief, they destroyed a Dominion strike force. They disabled 1 battlecruiser and let 9 attack ships retreat, sir." Captain Hunt called it sending a message. He could have annihilated the entire fleet, but chose to demonstrate restraint. O'Brien paused. "Sirs, the Andromeda represents technology 3,000 years beyond ours. If Captain Hunt wanted to, he could probably take on half the Dominion fleet and win." The admirals exchanged glances that O'Brien couldn't read. "Captain Sisko," Ross said carefully, "Captain Hunt is requesting permission to dock at Deep Space Nine for resupply and tactical consultation. Starfleet Command needs you to assess whether he's an asset or a threat." "He just saved 12,000 Federation citizens," Kira interjected. "How is that a threat?" "Because, Major," Watley replied coldly, "a ship with that much firepower operating in Federation space without oversight could destabilize the entire war effort. What happens when Captain Hunt decides his principles don't align with our strategic objectives?" Sisko's jaw tightened. He'd dealt with Starfleet politics long enough to recognize maneuvering when he saw it. "Admirals, with respect, Captain Hunt didn't ask for our permission to defend that colony. He saw people in danger and acted. That's exactly what Starfleet is supposed to do." Starfleet operates under regulations and command structure. Whatley countered. Captain Hunt operates under… what? The authority of a dead civilization, his own moral compass, which has aligned perfectly with Federation interests so far, Dax observed. Admiral, in 8 lifetimes I've met many warriors. Captain Hunt is the rarest kind. Someone with overwhelming power who chooses restraint. That's valuable. Before the argument could escalate, the comm chimed. Ops, this is the Andromeda. Captain Hunt requesting to speak with Captain Sisko. Priority channel. Put him through, Sisko ordered. Hunt's face appeared on a secondary screen. Behind him, the Andromeda's bridge showed his crew at their stations, still on yellow alert, still ready. Captain Sisko, I wanted to inform you directly. The Dominion is broadcasting warnings about us. They're calling the Andromeda a rogue weapons platform and demanding the Federation either control us or consider us hostile. I thought you should know before the political situation gets more complicated. Too late, Sisko said dryly. I have 2 admirals here already debating that exact question. Captain Hunt, permission to dock is granted, but we need to discuss your status. The Commonwealth doesn't exist anymore. You're not part of Starfleet. What exactly are you? Hunt's expression was unreadable for a moment. I'm a man trying to rebuild something worth believing in, Captain. Whether that's possible in this universe or whether I'm just repeating the Commonwealth's mistakes. He shook his head. I honestly don't know, but I'd like to find out. With your help, if you'll offer it. We'll talk when you dock. Sisko out. The admirals looked displeased. Captain Sisko, Ross said, Starfleet Command will send specific directives regarding the Andromeda. Until then, she remains on the station under your supervision. Do not, under any circumstances, allow Captain Hunt access to classified intelligence or strategic planning. Is that clear? Crystal clear, sir. The admiral signed off, leaving Ops in tense silence. Benjamin, Dax said quietly, they're going to try to control him. Or eliminate him if they can't. I know. Sisko looked at the view screen where the Andromeda hung in space. Beautiful, deadly, representing possibilities and dangers in equal measure. And that's going to be a problem because I don't think Captain Hunt is someone who can be controlled. 2 hours later, in Quark's bar, Dylan Hunt sat across from Sisko in a private booth. The Ferengi had been surprisingly accommodating once Sisko explained the situation. Apparently even Quark recognized when discretion was profitable. Captain Hunt, Sisko began, I'm going to be direct. Starfleet Command is afraid of you. Not because you're hostile, but because you're unpredictable. You have the power to change this war, and they can't control how you use it. Hunt sipped something that resembled scotch, but tasted alien. I've dealt with bureaucracies before, Captain. The Commonwealth had 17 million worlds. You can't get more bureaucratic than that. But here's what I learned. Organizations that prioritize control over effectiveness eventually lose both. Eloquent, but it doesn't solve our problem. Sisko leaned forward. You're not Federation. You're not bound by our treaties, our chain of command, our regulations. Yet you're operating in our space, fighting our enemies, affecting our war. That makes you either a loose cannon or a mercenary, depending on who's judging. Or an ally who doesn't need to be paid or commanded. Hunt met his gaze steadily. Captain, the Commonwealth fell because we forgot why we existed, to protect civilization, not to control it. I won't make that mistake again. I'll help the Federation because it's the right thing to do, not because someone orders me to. That's what worries them. What happens when you think the right thing isn't what Starfleet wants? Hunt was quiet for a long moment. Then I hope we can discuss it like adults instead of resorting to force. But Captain Sisko, his voice hardened slightly, I won't surrender my ship or my principles to anyone. Not Starfleet, not the Dominion, not anyone. The Andromeda is the last High Guard vessel in existence. I won't let her become a political bargaining chip. Before Sisko could respond, a man materialized at their table. No transporter shimmer, no warning. He simply appeared, wearing civilian clothes but carrying himself with intelligence, operative precision. Gentlemen, the man said pleasantly, my name is Sloan. I represent an organization interested in Captain Hunt's unique capabilities. Sisko's eyes narrowed. Section 31. Captain Sisko, I'm disappointed. We prefer to maintain some mystery. Sloan turned to Hunt. Captain Hunt, your ship represents technology that could end this war. The Dominion is winning. Worlds are falling. Billions are dying. Your Commonwealth fell because it wasn't ruthless enough when necessary. The Federation is making the same mistake. We'd like to help you avoid repeating history. Hunt's expression was cold steel. Let me guess. You want access to my technology, my weapons, my tactical database? In exchange for what? The Federation's gratitude? In exchange for helping us win before the Dominion murders everyone in the Alpha Quadrant. Sloan's pleasant demeanor didn't waver. Captain, I've studied the Commonwealth's fall. The Nietzscheans betrayed you because they saw your idealism as weakness. The Federation will fall the same way unless we're willing to do what's necessary. Your ship could change that. By becoming what we're fighting against? Hunt stood. The Commonwealth had organizations like yours, internal affairs, secret police. They started as necessary evils and became just evil. My answer is no. Even if your refusal costs billions of lives. Even then, because the moment I surrender my principles for strategic advantage, I become exactly what destroyed the Commonwealth. Hunt looked at Sisko. Captain, I assume you didn't arrange this meeting? I did not. Then I'm returning to my ship. Thank you for the drink. He turned to leave, then paused. Mr. Sloan, tell your organization that if they try to board the Andromeda without permission, they'll discover High Guard defensive systems are very effective against infiltration. We've had 3,000 years to perfect paranoia. Sloan watched him go, his expression unreadable. Captain Sisko, that man is either going to save the Federation or doom it. I hope you're prepared for either outcome. I hope you're prepared for what happens if Section 31 pushes him too hard, Sisko replied, because that ship could turn on us as easily as the Dominion. That's exactly what concerns us. Sloan vanished. No transporter, no trace, just gone. Sisko sat alone in the booth, nursing his drink, and wondered if he'd just witnessed the beginning of something revolutionary or catastrophic. On the Andromeda, Hunt entered the bridge to find his crew waiting. Boss? Harper looked worried. The look on your face says the Federation just went from grateful allies to suspicious bureaucrats. Something like that? Hunt settled into his command chair. They're afraid of us, afraid of what we represent, what we can do, what we might choose if our interests diverge from theirs. Then we leave, Beka said simply. Head to the frontier, find our own path. We don't need them. No, but they need us. Hunt looked at his crew, broken pieces of a fallen civilization who'd somehow become his family. The Dominion won't stop with the Federation. They'll expand until someone stops them. If we run, we're just delaying the inevitable. If we stay, Tyr observed, we become targets. The Federation will try to control us. The Dominion will hunt us. And this Section 31 will try to turn us into weapons they can aim at their enemies. Let them try. Romy's android form stood at tactical, her expression determined. I've been analyzing Section 31's known operations. They're effective but predictable. If they move against us, I'll know before they act. Hunt smiled slightly. Then we stay. We help the Federation fight the Dominion. We demonstrate that the Commonwealth's ideals can survive in this universe, and we prove that power doesn't have to corrupt, it can protect. And when Starfleet inevitably betrays those ideals, Tyre's cynicism was unshakable. Then we remind them why they matter, however we have to. The crew nodded, accepting the mission as they always did, with full knowledge of the risks and absolute faith in their captain. What none of them knew was that deep in Dominion space, the Founders were analyzing the reports from Torvan. They were recalculating probabilities, adjusting strategies, and reaching a conclusion that would reshape the war. The Andromeda had to be destroyed or captured at any cost. And the Founders, unlike Starfleet, didn't hesitate to pay terrible prices for victory. The alarm woke everyone on Deep Space Nine at 0412 hours. Not a drill, not a malfunction, the kind of sensor reading that made even veterans sit up with ice in their veins. Captain Sisko to Ops. Now. Dax was already at her station when Sisko arrived, her normally calm demeanor replaced by something close to panic. On the main view screen hung an image that defied immediate comprehension, a structure so massive it made DS9 look like a shuttlecraft. Benjamin, we're detecting something at the edge of the Bajoran sector. Her hands moved across controls with unusual urgency. I don't even know what to call it. It's 20 kilometers long, maybe more. Organic and mechanical components integrated together. It's not a ship, it's a world. A world ship. Kira stared at the image. Who builds something that size? The answer came from an unexpected source. The Andromeda's hail cut through before Sisko could respond. Deep Space Nine, this is Captain Hunt. Emergency priority. You need to raise your shields and arm every weapon you have. Right now. Hunt's face appeared on screen, and for the first time since they'd met, Sisko saw genuine fear in the man's eyes. Captain, what is that thing? That's a Magog world ship. Hunt's voice was tight, controlled panic beneath military discipline. And if it's here, everyone in this sector is in immediate danger. Captain Sisko, the Magog don't conquer, they consume. They're a plague species that reproduces by implanting eggs in living hosts. They eat civilizations, literally. Eggs in living hosts? Kira's face went pale. You mean they use sentient beings as incubators for their offspring, which then eat their way out of the host from the inside. It's how they reproduce. Hunt's jaw was granite. The Commonwealth fought them for 1,000 years. We never found a way to negotiate or coexist. You either kill Magog or they kill you. There's no middle ground. The horror of that statement settled over Ops like a shroud. How many are on that thing? Sisko asked. A world ship that size. Millions, maybe tens of millions. Hunt was already barking orders to his off-screen crew. Captain, I need you to evacuate every civilian from the station. Get them to Bajor's surface, to your runabouts, to anywhere that's not here. The Magog don't just attack military targets. They attack anything with a nervous system. We're in the middle of a war with the Dominion, Kira protested. We can't evacuate. The Dominion is a political problem. The Magog are an extinction event. Hunt's command presence filled even the remote transmission. Captain Sisko, I've seen what happens when the Magog attack an unprepared population. I've pulled survivors out of colonies where... He stopped, jaw working. Trust me, evacuate. Sisko made his decision. Major, begin emergency evacuation protocols. Priority to civilians, children, non-essential personnel. Get the Defiant prepped for combat. Chief O'Brien, I want every weapon system we have online and charged." "Already on it, sir," O'Brien's voice came through from engineering. "Captain Hunt, what's their attack pattern?" "They swarm, launch thousands of small craft loaded with Magog warriors. They overwhelm point defenses through sheer numbers, board wherever they can, and start implanting hosts." Hunt's expression was haunted. "The screaming is the worst part. When the larvae hatch, the hosts are still conscious. They feel everything." Dax looked like she might be sick. Even Kira, who'd fought the Cardassians for years, went ashen. "How do we fight them?" "Area denial weapons, fire suppression. Don't let them board." Hunt paused. "And if they do board, you burn every section they contaminate. The Magog are parasites. You can't negotiate with them, can't reason with them. You can only sterilize the infestation." A new voice cut through the channel. Tyr Anasazi, his rumble carrying unusual tension. "Captain, the world ship is launching craft, thousands of them. They're headed for both Deep Space Nine and the Andromeda." On the view screen, the tactical display showed a nightmare. A swarm of small craft moving in patterns that looked organic rather than mechanical, like a plague of locusts descending. "Captain Sisko," Hunt said, and his voice carried absolute certainty. "The Andromeda will engage the swarm. We'll thin them before they reach you. But you need to understand, the Magog don't stop. Even if we destroy 90% of that swarm, the remaining 10% will be enough to overrun your station if you're not prepared." "We'll be ready." Sisko turned to his crew. "Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Security teams, prepare for boarding actions. Odo, I want force fields at every access point. If anything gets on this station that's not Federation, they don't survive," Odo finished grimly. The Andromeda broke orbit, her massive form accelerating toward the incoming swarm with purpose born of 3,000 years of fighting exactly this enemy. On the Andromeda's bridge, Hunt stood at his command post, his expression the practiced calm of someone who'd fought this nightmare before. "Harper, I want the AP guns firing continuously. Romy, target the densest swarm concentrations. Beka, evasive pattern Delta 7. Keep us moving, don't let them surround us. And someone get me a channel to the Defiant." "Channel open," Romy reported. Commander Worf's face appeared. The Klingon was aboard the Defiant, commanding in Sisko's absence. His expression showed he recognized the gravity of the situation. "Captain Hunt, the Defiant stands ready. What are your tactical recommendations?" "Commander Worf, your ship is fast and maneuverable. Use that. Hit the swarm's flanks, force them to split their attention. But whatever you do, don't let them board. Magog in confined spaces are..." Hunt's voice trailed off. "They're worse than Borg. At least drones die when you destroy the collective. Magog fight until you kill every single one." Worf's eyes narrowed. A worthy challenge. Defiant out. The swarm was 5 minutes out when O'Brien's voice crackled through the station-wide comm. "All personnel, this is the chief. I'm implementing emergency containment protocols. If you see anything, and I mean anything that looks wrong, you hit the nearest emergency force field control. We're turning this station into a maze of kill zones. The Magog want to board? We'll make them regret it." On Bajor's surface, Administrator Chen, the woman Hunt had saved at Torvan, watched the evacuation transports land with growing dread. She'd heard the stories filtering through Starfleet channels. A new threat, worse than the Dominion, something that ate people alive. She opened a channel to the Andromeda. "Captain Hunt, is it true? Are those things really as bad as they say?" Hunt's face appeared, and she saw the answer before he spoke. Administrator, if you believe in any gods, now would be the time to pray that we stop them before they reach the surface, because if they get planet-side..." He didn't finish. Chen closed the channel, turned to her security teams, and began distributing weapons to colonists who'd just learned to live without fear. On the world ship, millions of Magog swarmed through organic corridors driven by instincts older than civilization itself. They didn't have commanders in the traditional sense. They operated on hive behavior, religious fervor, and the overwhelming biological imperative to reproduce. And they detected two populations of perfect hosts, Deep Space Nine and Bajor below. The swarm accelerated, hungry mouths on thousands of small craft, already anticipating the feast. On the Andromeda, Harper watched his tactical display and muttered prayers to engineering deities he'd invented himself. "Boss, there's too many. Even with all our missiles, we can't get them all." "We don't have to get them all." Hunt's voice was steel. "We just have to thin them enough that DS9 can handle the rest. Romy, launch every missile we have." "I want a wall of fire between that swarm and the station." Launching all VLS tubes, 480 missiles away. The space between the Andromeda and the swarm filled with fire. Missiles detonated in patterns designed by AI that had fought the Magog for millennia. Swarm craft disintegrated by the dozens, then by the hundreds. But for every craft destroyed, 3 more pushed through. The Defiant opened fire, her quantum torpedoes and pulse phasers carving corridors through the swarm. Worf's tactical precision was beautiful to watch. Every shot found a target, every maneuver maximized kill ratio, but it wasn't enough. "They're through," Dax called out from DS9. 300 craft heading for the station, 200 more targeting the Andromeda. "Slip fighters, launch," Hunt ordered. "Intercept pattern Alpha 3. Buy us time." The RF-42 Centaurs screamed into space, their pilots knowing exactly what was at stake. They'd fought the Magog before. They knew the horror that awaited if they failed. And on Deep Space Nine, as the first Magog boarding craft slammed into the outer hull and began cutting through, Captain Benjamin Sisko realized he was about to fight a kind of war Starfleet had never prepared for. Not a war of ideology or territory. A war of survival against a species that saw every living being as nothing more than a host to be consumed. The Magog had arrived in the Star Trek universe, and they were hungry. The first Magog burst through DS9's outer hull on Deck 12, Section Gamma. Security Officer Martinez saw it emerge, a bipedal nightmare of chitinous armor, too many teeth, eyes that reflected no intelligence, only hunger, and fired his phaser on maximum setting. The Magog screamed and kept coming. "They're resistant to phasers," Martinez shouted into his comm. "We need..." The Magog was on him before he could finish. Claws raked across his chest. Teeth found his throat. And as he died, 3 more Magog poured through the breach behind the first, screeching their hunger to the station's horrified inhabitants. In ops, Odo heard the report and felt something he rarely experienced. Genuine fear. Not for himself. His shape-shifting physiology made him useless as a host, but for the thousands of solids on his station. All security teams, switch to maximum dispersal settings. If phasers don't work, use physical force. Fall back to secondary positions and seal bulkheads behind you. He turned to Sisko. "Captain, we're fighting a delaying action. We can't stop them, only slow them down." "Then slow them down." Sisko's voice was grim. "O'Brien, force fields." "Already deploying, sir." The chief's voice was tight with stress. "I'm sectioning off the station into kill zones. Every time they breach a section, I'll seal it and vent atmosphere. It's brutal, but do it." On the Andromeda, Hunt watched his tactical display with the cold calculation of someone who'd fought this nightmare for years. 200 Magog craft had latched onto his hull, cutting through armor plating with organic acids. Romy, internal defenses, active. Captain. Her android avatar's expression was tense. I'm detecting 63 hull breaches. Magog warriors are entering decks 7 through 15. Security teams are engaging. Seal all non-essential decks. Override life support safeties. If they breach engineering or the bridge, flood those sections with radiation. Hunt's orders were ruthless, necessary. We can survive in EVA suits. The Magog can't survive hard vacuum and gamma radiation. Captain, that's our own people, Beka started. Our people know the drill. We've fought Magog before. Hunt's voice was steel. They're wearing combat armor. They'll survive the environmental purge. The Magog won't. On Deck 10, Harper found himself face to face with 3 Magog warriors who'd cut through a ventilation shaft. His hands shook as he raised his force lance, a weapon he'd built himself, cobbled together from spare parts and desperation. Come on, you ugly bastards, he muttered. Harper's got a surprise for you. He fired. The lance's coherent magnetic pulse hit the lead Magog and simply erased its torso. Molecular bonds shattered, organic matter converted to superheated plasma. The other 2 kept coming. Harper ran, his engineer's mind already plotting routes through the ship's layout that the Magog didn't know. He led them through 3 corridors, around 2 corners, and directly into a section Romy had just sealed. Romy, now! The bulkhead slammed shut, atmosphere vented. The Magog clawed at the doors, their screams silent in vacuum, until their lungs burst and they died in frozen agony. Harper collapsed against a wall, hyperventilating. I really hate those things. On DS9, Odo's security teams had discovered that while phasers were partially effective, good old-fashioned projectile weapons worked better. The armory had been broken open, distributing Type 2 compression phaser rifles and, in desperation, ancient chemical propellant weapons that Starfleet kept for historical purposes. A Bajoran security officer named Prin found herself wielding a 20th century assault rifle, its mechanical simplicity a comfort in this nightmare. She fired 3-round bursts into an advancing Magog, the bullets punching through chitinous armor where phasers had failed. They bleed, she shouted. Aim for the thorax, center mass. Her team adapted, switching tactics, and the Magog advance on Deck 8 stalled under withering ballistic fire. But on Decks 5, 12, and 18, the Magog were winning. And they'd found the civilian shelters. Quark heard the screaming first. His bar was locked down, transformed into a makeshift bunker, but the sounds carried through the ventilation. Screams of terror, then screams of agony, then silence worse than either. We have to do something, Rom pleaded, his usual cowardice overridden by desperation. There's nothing to do, Quark said, his voice hollow. We sealed the doors. We set the force fields. If we open them now... A Magog burst through the ceiling. Quark grabbed the disruptor he'd kept hidden behind the bar. Ferengi tradition, never completely trust station security, and fired. The Magog's head exploded in a spray of biological matter. 2 more dropped through the hole. Rom, run! Meanwhile, in space, the battle had evolved into something primal. The Defiant darted through swarm craft like a shark through a school of fish, her weapons never silent. Worf's tactical display showed kill counts in the hundreds, but thousands remained. Worf to Andromeda, we're being overwhelmed. There are too many. Understood, Defiant. Hunt's voice was calm despite the chaos. Fall back to DS9's shields. We're going to try something the High Guard used when conventional weapons failed. What? Worf started, but Hunt had already cut the channel. On the Andromeda's bridge, Hunt looked at his crew. Becca, bring us alongside that world ship. Point-blank range. Dylan, that's suicide, she protested. It's tactical necessity. Romy, I need every AP gun loaded with thermonuclear warheads. I want them fired on direct impact with the world ship's hull, not missiles, projectiles. We're going to punch through their armor and detonate inside. Tyre understood immediately. You're going to gut it, fire rounds directly into the world ship's infrastructure, and let them detonate internally. Vicious. Necessary. Hunt's expression was granite. That thing has millions of Magog. We kill the world ship. We kill the swarm's staging point. Do it. The Andromeda accelerated toward the world ship, her armor taking hits from swarm craft that bounced off like insects against a windshield. She was built for exactly this kind of insane maneuver, close-quarters combat at speeds that would tear lesser ships apart. At 500 meters, the AP guns opened fire, 30 rounds per second, each one carrying a 5-megaton thermonuclear warhead, each one punching through the world ship's organic armor before detonating deep inside. The world ship screamed, a sound that registered on every sensor, every comm channel, a biological cry of agony that made human ears bleed. O'Brien heard it on DS9 and nearly dropped his tools. Mother of God, what is that? That, Dax said, her voice shaking, is the sound of millions of Magog dying at once. Benjamin, the world ship is breaking apart. Hunt's tearing it to pieces from the inside. On the view screen, the world ship hemorrhaged atmosphere, Magog, and biological matter. Explosions rippled through its structure as thermonuclear warheads found ammunition stores, breeding chambers, power systems. The swarm craft, suddenly leaderless, lost coordination. Some continued their attacks on DS9. Others turned back toward the dying world ship. Many simply drifted, their pilots dead from the psychic backlash of millions of their kind dying simultaneously. All batteries free fire, Hunt ordered. I want every swarm craft destroyed before they can regroup. The slip fighters, the Defiant, DS9's weapons, and the Andromeda's remaining missiles carved through the disorganized swarm like a scythe through wheat. Within 10 minutes, it was over. The world ship's corpse tumbled through space, leaking debris and bodies. The swarm was annihilated, and DS9, battered but intact, still stood. But the cost was visible in every face, every screen, every report that filtered through. DS9 casualties, 147 dead, 312 wounded, 23 civilians implanted with Magog larvae before they could be rescued and were humanely euthanized rather than suffer the hatching. Andromeda casualties, 31 crew members killed in boarding actions, 87 wounded, Defiant, 4 dead, 19 wounded. In Sisko's office, Hunt sat across from the captain, both men too exhausted for politics or philosophy. That was a glimpse of what destroyed the Commonwealth, Hunt said quietly. Not the Magog specifically, but threats like them. Enemies you can't negotiate with, can't coexist with, can only fight until one side is exterminated. It grinds civilizations down until they forget why they're fighting and only remember how. We won today, Sisko replied. Did we? Hunt gestured toward the casualty reports. Or did we just survive? There's a difference, Captain. The Commonwealth won battles against the Magog for 1,000 years. But every victory cost us something: innocence, compassion, the belief that all conflicts could be resolved peacefully. Eventually, we became so good at fighting that we forgot how to do anything else. Before Sisko could respond, alarms blared across the station. Kira's voice cut through the comm. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting a Dominion fleet. 20 ships heading straight for us. ETA 40 minutes. Hunt and Sisko exchanged looks. "They're vultures," Sisko said. "They waited to see if the Magog would do their job for them. Now that we're wounded, they come to finish us off." Hunt stood. "Captain, the Andromeda needs at least 2 hours for repairs before we're combat effective again. Can DS9's shields hold? Against 20 ships? No." The two captains stood in silence, facing the reality that they'd survived one extinction threat only to face another. The Dominion fleet dropped out of warp in perfect formation. 20 warships, their commanders having watched the Magog battle from long-range sensors and calculated that the exhausted defenders would be easy prey. They were about to learn why that calculation was wrong. In Sisko's office-turned-war room, a holographic tactical display showed the strategic situation. Hunt stood on one side, Sisko on the other, with Kira, Dax, Worf, and O'Brien creating a makeshift joint command staff. "The Andromeda needs 2 hours for critical repairs," Hunt said without preamble. "Our VLS tubes are empty. We expended every missile on the Magog. AP guns are at 30% ammunition, but our electromagnetic lances are fully charged, and our slip fighters are combat ready. DS9's shields are operational but weakened," O'Brien reported. "We can take maybe 5-6 direct hits from battle cruisers before we're looking at catastrophic failure. Weapons are at 70%. We burned through a lot of power fighting the Magog." "The Defiant is intact," Worf added. "Full weapons capacity, but against 20 ships." "We're outgunned 3-1, Kira finished. "Sir, we should request reinforcements." "They won't arrive in time." Sisko studied the display. "We have 40 minutes before the Dominion is in firing range. We either win with what we have, or we lose." "Then we don't fight their fight," Hunt said. "Captain Sisko, the Dominion expects conventional tactics. Shield exchanges, torpedo volleys, battle lines. They've seen the Andromeda's firepower, so they're coming prepared with overlapping shields and coordinated fire. We need to give them something they haven't seen." "What do you propose?" Hunt gestured at the display. "The Dominion fights with overwhelming numerical superiority and disciplined formations. The Commonwealth learned to counter that with asymmetric warfare. Hit them where they're not, when they're not ready, with tactics they can't predict." He looked at Sisko. "How much do you trust me?" Sisko met his gaze steadily. "I watched you destroy a Magog world ship to save my station. I think we're past trust issues, Captain Hunt. What do you need?" "Command authority over all forces for the duration of this engagement. You know this sector, your people, your capabilities. I know how to fight wars the Commonwealth won against worse odds." Hunt's voice was respectful but firm. "Between us, we can win this. But not if we're second-guessing each other's orders." It was asking a lot. Asking Sisko to surrender tactical command to an outsider, a man from a dead civilization based on less than a week's acquaintance. Sisko made his decision in 3 seconds. "Done. You have operational command, but Captain Hunt, we're not the Commonwealth. My people aren't used to high guard tactics. You'll need to make it work with what we can do, not what you wish we could." "Understood." Hunt turned to the assembled officers. "Here's what we're going to do. The Andromeda will engage the Dominion fleet directly, acting as bait to pull them into close quarters where our EMLs can't miss. The Defiant will use its cloak to approach from their flank. DS9 will hold position, powering weapons and shields to maximum. When I give the signal, everything happens at once." "What signal?" Worf asked. "You'll know it when you see it." Hunt's expression was pure tactical calculation. "Commander Worf, your quantum torpedoes, can you fire them while cloaked?" "For approximately 2 seconds before the energy discharge disrupts the cloak." "That's all we need." You're going to decloak, fire every torpedo you have at their battle cruisers, then recloak and run. Classic hit and run. By the time they reorient to chase you, it'll be too late. Too late for what? Kira demanded. For them to avoid the trap. Hunt looked at O'Brien. Chief, I need you to do something crazy. Can you transport photon torpedoes with delayed fuses directly into enemy engine rooms? O'Brien's eyes widened. That's theoretically possible. But the targeting would be nearly impossible through their shields. What if they drop shields to beam in boarding parties? You want them to board DS9? Kira's voice rose. We just fought off the Magog. I want them to try to board DS9. Captain Sisko, if the Dominion thinks your shields are failing and you're about to fall, they'll drop their shields to beam in Jem'Hadar. That's when Chief O'Brien beams high-yield photon torpedoes into their engineering sections. Dax caught on. You're going to fake distress, make them think we're beaten. Exactly. The Andromeda takes damage, real damage, we're already wounded, and retreats behind DS9. The station's shields flicker like they're failing. The Dominion moves in for the kill, drops shields to board. Hunt's smile was predatory. And finds out they just opened themselves up to internal detonations they can't stop. That's ruthless, Kira said. That's warfare when you're outnumbered and exhausted. Hunt's voice hardened. The Dominion came here expecting to mop up survivors. We're going to teach them why the Commonwealth survived 3,000 years. Not through superior firepower, but through being willing to fight smarter, dirtier, and more desperately than our enemies expected. Sisko nodded slowly. It could work. But Captain, there's one problem. The Vorta commanders are smart. They'll be watching for exactly this kind of trap after what you did at Torvan. Which is why the Andromeda's damage has to be real. They need to believe we're beaten. Hunt's jaw set. Captain Sisko, I'm going to let them hurt us. Let them think they're winning. Can you sell that from DS9's side? You're asking me to fake a station-wide failure while actually preparing to ambush them. Sisko's tactical mind raced through the possibilities. Yes, we can do that. Dax, prepare emergency power routines. I want shields and weapons to look like they're failing while actually staying at maximum efficiency, just held in reserve. Theatrical engineering. I can do that. Dax's smile was fierce. Benjamin, this is either brilliant or completely insane. It's both, Hunt admitted. Welcome to High Guard Tactical Doctrine. Now, let's get to work. We have 30 minutes to prepare. 25 minutes later, the Dominion fleet began its approach. Vorta Commander Gelnan watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The station's shields were fluctuating. The Andromeda was venting plasma from several hull breaches. The Defiant was nowhere to be seen, probably fled already. All ships, attack formation Delta, Gelnan ordered. Target the station's shield generators first. Once DS9 falls, the Andromeda will surrender or die. Either outcome is acceptable. What he didn't see was the Defiant, cloaked and holding position 3,000 kilometers behind his fleet, or the 50 transport patterns locked into DS9's targeting computers, or the electromagnetic lance cannons on the Andromeda, quietly charging to maximum capacity. The Dominion opened fire. Polaron beams hammered DS9's shields, which flickered and weakened, exactly as Dax had programmed them to appear. The Andromeda returned fire with AP guns, but her shots were erratic, missing more than hitting, suggesting damaged targeting systems. They're beaten, Gelnan observed. Prepare boarding teams. The moment their shields fail, I want Jem'Hadar on that station. The Founders want prisoners for interrogation about Commonwealth technology. Sir, should we be cautious? The Andromeda has expended all her missiles fighting the Magog, Gelnan interrupted. She's wounded and isolated. There's nothing to fear." 5 minutes later, DS9's shields collapsed completely. "Now," Gelnon ordered, "all ships drop shields and beam in boarding parties." Across the Dominion fleet, shield generators powered down. Transporters locked onto DS9. Jem'Hadar soldiers prepared for combat. "Now," Hunt shouted on the Andromeda. 3 things happened simultaneously. The Defiant decloaked behind the Dominion formation and fired every quantum torpedo in her arsenal. 16 warheads that struck the battlecruisers before they could react. The Andromeda's electromagnetic lances fired at point-blank range through gaps in the Dominion formation, their coherent magnetic fields punching through unshielded hulls and inducing catastrophic electrical failures in 7 ships. And Chief O'Brien transported 50 photon torpedoes with 3-second fuses directly into the engineering sections of the remaining Dominion vessels. The space around DS9 transformed into a killing field. Dominion ships exploded from internal detonations. Battle cruisers reeled as quantum torpedoes breached their hulls. Attack ships went dark as EML strikes fried every system. "Shields up!" Sisko ordered. "All weapons, fire at will!" DS9's failed shields snapped back to full power. Her weapons, held in reserve, opened up with concentrated fire on the stunned Dominion fleet. Worf's Defiant raked through the confusion, her pulse phasers cutting through ships whose shields were still down, whose crews were still trying to understand what had just happened. In 90 seconds, the Dominion fleet went from overwhelming advantage to fighting for survival. "Tactical retreat!" Gelnon screamed into his comm. "All ships, maximum warp, emergency!" An electromagnetic lance hit his ship's bridge. Gelnon's last thought was confusion that his overwhelming victory had somehow become total defeat. 5 Dominion ships managed to jump to warp, damaged and desperate. 15 remained, wreckage drifting in space. Their crews dead or dying, their confidence shattered. On DS9's ops, the tactical display showed the impossible. They'd won. "Casualty reports," Sisko said, almost afraid to ask. "Minimal," Kira replied, stunned. 3 wounded on DS9 from debris impacts. Defiant reports no casualties. Andromeda took some real hits when they were playing damaged, but it worked, Dax finished, her voice carrying amazement. "We just destroyed 15 Dominion warships, using tactics they'd never seen before." In the wreckage, Jem'Hadar survivors drifted in escape pods, transmitting final reports to Dominion space. Reports that would fundamentally alter the Founders' strategic assessment. The Federation has allied with technology that makes conventional warfare obsolete. Tactical doctrine requires complete revision. The Andromeda Ascendant cannot be engaged with standard fleet tactics. On the Andromeda's bridge, Hunt slumped in his command chair, the adrenaline draining away, leaving only exhaustion. "That was closer than I'd have liked," he admitted to his crew. "Boss," Harper said, "you realize we just rewrote Dominion tactical planning for the rest of this war?" "Good." Hunt managed a tight smile. "Maybe it'll make them think twice before attacking anyone else." Romy's android avatar approached him. "Captain, I've been analyzing the engagement. The fusion of Commonwealth and Federation tactics produced a kill ratio 17 times higher than either doctrine would have achieved independently. We didn't just win, we created a new methodology for asymmetric warfare." "Then maybe," Hunt said quietly, "the Commonwealth's legacy isn't dead. Maybe it's just evolving." 3 days after the battle, Deep Space Nine had transformed from a battered survivor into something else entirely, a symbol. Word had spread through both Federation and Dominion space about the station that had faced extinction twice in one day and emerged victorious. In Sisko's office, an emergency transmission from Starfleet Command filled the view screen. Admiral Ross, Admiral Watley, and Fleet Admiral Nechayev, the woman who'd broken more ambitious officers than most people had met, stared at Hunt and Sisko with expressions that mixed gratitude, calculation, and deep concern. "Captain Hunt," Nechayev began without preamble, "in 72 hours, you've destroyed a Dominion strike force at Torvan, annihilated a Magog world ship, and defeated a 20-ship Dominion fleet using tactics we've never seen. You've killed more enemy vessels than some of our task forces manage in months. The question Starfleet Command needs answered is simple. What do you want?" Hunt, standing beside Sisko, didn't flinch from her directness. "Admiral, I want what the Systems Commonwealth always wanted, to help civilization survive against those who would destroy it. I didn't come to your universe by choice, but I'm here now, and I won't stand by while the Dominion conquers everything you've built." "Noble sentiment," Watley interjected, "but you're not Federation. You don't answer to our chain of command. You operate with weapons 3,000 years beyond our technology. That makes you either the most valuable ally we've ever had, or the most dangerous variable in this war. Which is it? Why can't it be both?" Hunt's voice was measured, respectful, but firm. "Admirals, the Commonwealth spanned 3 galaxies and 17 million worlds. We maintained that civilization for 3,000 years, not through military dominance, but through alliances built on mutual respect and shared purpose. I am offering the Federation the same thing we offered every member world: partnership, not submission." Nechayev leaned forward. "And when our interests diverge? When Starfleet Command makes decisions you disagree with? What then, Captain Hunt? Do you follow orders, or do you become a rogue element with enough firepower to reshape the Alpha Quadrant by force?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Sisko spoke before Hunt could respond. "Admiral, if I may, Captain Hunt has had multiple opportunities to demonstrate tyrannical intentions. He could have seized DS9 when he arrived. He could have demanded concessions in exchange for saving Torvan. He could have used the Magog attack as leverage for technology transfers or political influence. He's done none of those things. Instead, he's fought alongside us, bled alongside us, and asked for nothing in return." "Captain Sisko," Ross said carefully, "we're not questioning Hunt's character. We're questioning the precedent. If we accept the Andromeda as an independent operator in Federation space, what happens when other ships, other captains, other civilizations decide they can do the same?" "Then perhaps," Hunt said quietly, "the Federation needs to decide what it values more: bureaucratic control or effective defense against enemies who won't wait for committee approvals before they murder your citizens." The silence was deafening. Nechayev's expression could have cut steel. "Captain Hunt, you just insulted the administrative structure of the United Federation of Planets." "With respect, Admiral, I stated a tactical reality." Hunt's voice remained calm. "The Dominion doesn't care about your regulations. The Borg don't negotiate with your committees. And the Magog—" He gestured toward the window where debris from the world ship still drifted. "They don't even understand the concept of bureaucracy. They just eat. You're fighting for survival. That requires different thinking than peacetime administration." "He's not wrong," Ross admitted reluctantly. "Admiral Nechayev, the tactical reports from DS9 show combat doctrine we've never encountered. Hunt's willingness to fake distress, to use the enemy's assumptions against them, to employ what amounts to psychological warfare. It's effective, ruthlessly so." "Effective," Watley agreed, "and terrifying. What happens when Hunt decides the Federation is being too cautious, too diplomatic? What if he takes matters into his own hands? Then you court-martial him, same as any Starfleet officer who disobeys orders. Hunt's answer was immediate. Admirals, here's what I'm proposing. Make the Andromeda an auxiliary vessel of the Federation. Not Starfleet, we're not joining your military structure, but we operate under Federation authority, subject to the same rules of engagement, the same ethical guidelines, the same ultimate accountability. In exchange, we provide tactical support, advanced combat capabilities, and everything the Commonwealth learned about fighting wars against impossible odds. An auxiliary vessel, Nechayev repeated slowly, with veto power over orders you find objectionable, with the right to advise when orders seem tactically unsound or ethically wrong, yes, but ultimate authority remains with Starfleet Command. Hunt paused. Admiral, the Commonwealth fell because we forgot that power without accountability becomes tyranny. I won't repeat that mistake, but I also won't surrender the Andromeda's independence entirely, because we've seen what happens when militaries demand absolute obedience. They stop listening to dissent until it's too late to adapt. Sisko watched the admirals process this. It was a compromise none of them had expected. Hunt offering structure and accountability while maintaining enough independence to challenge bad orders. We'll need to discuss this with the Federation Council, Nechayev finally said. Captain Hunt, you'll remain at Deep Space Nine pending a final decision. Do not, under any circumstances, engage in combat operations without explicit Starfleet authorization. Are we clear? Crystal clear, Admiral. The transmission ended. Hunt turned to Sisko with a wry smile. Well, that could have gone worse. They're going to spend 3 weeks debating this, produce a 50-page agreement filled with legal language neither of us understands, and ultimately approve it because they're desperate. Sisko moved to the window, looking out at the Andromeda hanging in space. But Captain, you need to understand something. Starfleet operates on consensus, diplomatic pressure, and institutional inertia. The Commonwealth's direct action philosophy is going to clash with that repeatedly. I know. Hunt joined him at the window. But maybe that's what the Federation needs right now. Someone to remind them that their principles matter, but so does the willingness to defend those principles with force when necessary. The Commonwealth fell because we became too willing to fight. The Federation could fall because you're not willing to fight hard enough. Perhaps together, we find the balance. Before Sisko could respond, Dax's voice cut through the comm. Benjamin, we're receiving a transmission. You should see this. They returned to Ops to find the main view screen, showing a face Sisko recognized from intelligence briefings. A founder, one of the shape-shifting leaders of the Dominion. But this one wasn't issuing demands or threats. Her expression carried something unusual for a founder, genuine concern. Captain Sisko, Captain Hunt. Her voice was measured. I am speaking not as a representative of the Dominion military, but as one of the founders who questions our current strategy. The reports from Torvan, from your station, from the battle with the Magog, they've caused debate among my people. Vigorous debate. Debate about what? Sisko asked carefully. About whether conquest is worth the cost you're prepared to inflict. She looked directly at Hunt. Captain Hunt, we've analyzed your ship's capabilities. We've studied the Commonwealth's history, what little survived in databases scattered across the galaxy. You represent a civilization that fought for 3,000 years and ultimately destroyed itself through internal conflict. We find this instructive. Instructive how? Hunt's voice was neutral, giving nothing away. The Dominion seeks order through control. The Commonwealth sought order through cooperation. Both approaches ultimately failed. Yours through betrayal, ours through She paused. Through methods that create more enemies than subjects, some of us wonder if there is a third path, one that neither conquers nor collapses. Kira moved to stand beside Sisko. You're saying the founders are considering peace. I'm saying some of us are considering that endless war is unsustainable. The solid species of the Alpha Quadrant have proven more resilient than we anticipated. The Klingons, the Romulans, the Federation, and now, she gestured at Hunt, forces from beyond this universe that make conventional warfare obsolete. Perhaps it's time to reassess. This could be a trap. Tyr's voice came from the Andromeda's open channel. The Nietzschean had been monitoring the conversation. The founders have never shown interest in genuine peace. Tyr Anasazi, the founder said, surprising everyone by addressing him directly. We know what you are, a Nietzschean, genetically engineered for superiority, whose people betrayed the Commonwealth. Your cynicism is earned. But consider this. The Jem'Hadar are bred for warfare, the Vorta for administration, and we, founders, for leadership. What happens when a species designed for war encounters an enemy that makes war suicidal? We adapt or we die. Even we are not immune to that reality. Hunt stepped forward. If you're serious about exploring alternatives to conflict, prove it. Pull your forces back from Federation territory. Establish a neutral zone. Let's talk. And give you time to fortify your positions, to build more ships like the Andromeda. The founder's smile was cold. Captain Hunt, we're not naive, but perhaps we can agree to a cessation of offensive operations while we explore possibilities. The Dominion has no interest in fighting the Commonwealth's ghost. You've demonstrated that wars with you would be costly enough to question their value. A ceasefire, Sisko said. Not peace, not yet. But a pause in active combat. Consider it an experiment in the third path I mentioned. The Dominion continues to exist. The Federation continues to exist. And we see if coexistence is possible without one side conquering the other. She looked between Hunt and Sisko. You've both proven that the cost of conquering you exceeds the benefit. That creates strategic space for alternatives. Whether your respective governments are wise enough to explore those alternatives, we shall see. The transmission ended, leaving Ops in stunned silence. She's serious, Dax breathed. Benjamin, one of the founders, just proposed a ceasefire. Because we scared them, Kira said. Because Hunt showed them that winning this war would cost more than they're willing to pay. Or, Odo observed from his security station, because they're buying time to develop countermeasures to Commonwealth technology. This could be a strategic pause, not a genuine peace overture. Hunt nodded slowly. Both could be true. The Commonwealth dealt with this constantly. Enemies who offered truces while preparing the next attack. But we also learned that sometimes exhausted civilizations genuinely seek alternatives to endless conflict. The trick is maintaining readiness while exploring peace so you're never caught unprepared. The Klingons will hate this, Worf rumbled. A cessation of hostilities denies them honorable combat. Then the Klingons will have to adapt, Sisko replied. Because if there's even a chance this could end the war without billions more casualties, we have to take it. But Captain Hunt is right. We stay ready. The Andromeda remains combat effective. DS9 maintains battle readiness, and Starfleet doesn't stand down. 3 weeks later, the Federation Council approved the Andromeda Accords, 47 pages of legal language that essentially said the Andromeda Ascendant operates as an auxiliary vessel of the Federation. subject to Starfleet's strategic authority, but with independence to challenge orders through formal review processes. Captain Hunt gained the rank of Commonwealth Liaison, a newly invented position that gave him authority equivalent to a Starfleet flag officer without actually making him part of the Starfleet hierarchy. Section 31, predictably, was furious. Sloan visited Hunt one more time, appearing in the Andromeda's hangar bay despite every security measure. "You're making a mistake," Sloan said without preamble. "The Dominion's ceasefire is a delaying tactic. They're studying you, analyzing your tactics, preparing to counter everything you've shown them. In 6 months, maybe a year, they'll attack again. Stronger, smarter, and you'll have wasted the advantage you currently have." Hunt, standing beside Romy's android form, regarded the Section 31 operative with cold assessment. "Mr. Sloan, the Commonwealth fought enemies for 3,000 years. Some we defeated through overwhelming force, some through negotiation, and some through demonstrating that fighting us cost more than any victory was worth. We learned to recognize which approach each enemy required. The Dominion has shown they can calculate costs. That makes them susceptible to strategic deterrence. And if you're wrong, if they attack during this ceasefire and you're not ready, then we'll fight, like we always have." "But Mr. Sloan, here's what Section 31 doesn't understand. The Commonwealth didn't fall because we weren't ruthless enough. We fell because we became so focused on winning that we forgot what we were fighting for. Don't make the same mistake." Sloan studied him for a long moment. "You're an idealist with a warship, Hunt. History is littered with the wreckage of people like you. And history is equally littered with the wreckage of pragmatists who sacrificed everything they claimed to protect in pursuit of victory." Hunt's voice hardened. "Section 31 exists because someone decided principles were less important than results. The Commonwealth had organizations like yours. They started as necessary evils and ended as just evil. I won't help you repeat that pattern." Sloan vanished without another word, leaving Hunt and Romy alone in the hangar. "Captain," Romy said quietly, "he's not entirely wrong. The Dominion could be using this time to prepare countermeasures." "I know. That's why we're using this time too." Hunt looked at his ship, scarred from battles, her crew exhausted but determined. "Romy, start deep analysis on everything we know about Dominion technology. I want to know how they'd counter our tactics, what weaknesses they'll try to exploit, how they'd adapt. If they're studying us, we're studying them twice as hard. Already compiling the data, Captain. Though I should note, the Federation is doing the same thing. Starfleet intelligence has requested detailed technical information about our weapons systems, shields, propulsion. They're not content to simply accept our help. They want to understand us." "Good. That means they're thinking strategically, not just tactically. Let them study. The more the Federation understands Commonwealth technology, the better they can integrate it into their own doctrine." Hunt paused. "Though we should keep some capabilities in reserve, just in case. In case the Federation becomes a threat. In case anyone becomes a threat. Trust is earned, Romy. We've made a good start with Sisko and his crew. But institutional trust, that takes time and verification." On DS9's promenade, Chief O'Brien found himself sharing a drink with Harper in Quark's bar. The young Commonwealth engineer was sketching something on a PADD, designs for improving DS9's defensive systems, using hybrid Federation-Commonwealth technology. "See, Chief, your EPS conduits are inefficient because you're still using plasma distribution networks designed 3 centuries ago." Harper's enthusiasm was infectious. "But if we integrate Commonwealth power coupling systems, With your existing infrastructure, we could boost your shield capacity by 40% without replacing a single major system. O'Brien studied the schematics, his engineer's brain already seeing the possibilities. That's brilliant, but it would require recalibrating every power junction on the station. So, we've got time now, right? Ceasefire and all that? Harper grinned. Come on, Chief, let's build something amazing. Show the Dominion that when the Federation and the Commonwealth work together, we don't just survive, we innovate. O'Brien found himself grinning back. You're on, but if Admiral Ross asks, this was all your idea. Deal. Across the promenade, Becca Valentine sat with Major Kira, both women nursing drinks stronger than regulations strictly allowed. So, Becca said casually, you led a resistance movement against occupiers. How'd that work out? We won, eventually. After years of fighting, casualties we'll never recover from, and compromises that still haunt me. Kira's voice was rough. But we won. Bajor is free. That has to count for something. It counts for everything, Becca replied. The Commonwealth fell, but Hunt never gave up. He spent 300 years in frozen time, then woke up to a universe where everything he believed in was dust. And he's still fighting to rebuild it. That kind of stubborn idealism. She shook her head. I used to think it was naive. But after watching him save Torvin, destroy that world ship, fight for people he doesn't even know, maybe idealism is just a word pragmatists use for courage they don't understand. Kira raised her glass. To stubborn idealists with warships, may they always fight for people who can't fight for themselves. I'll drink to that. In Cisco's quarters, the captain shared dinner with Hunt, discussing everything from tactical philosophy to favorite foods. Cassidy Yates, Cisco's wife, had returned to the station during the ceasefire, and her presence added a domestic normalcy that Hunt found unexpectedly comforting. Captain Hunt, Cassidy said over dessert, Benjamin told me you're trying to rebuild your Commonwealth. That must feel impossible some days. Every day, Hunt admitted. The Commonwealth spanned 3 galaxies. Now it's 1 ship and a crew of 39. How do you rebuild that? Where do you even start? The same way Bajor rebuilt after the occupation, Cassidy replied. 1 person at a time. 1 alliance at a time. 1 choice at a time to be better than you were yesterday. You don't rebuild civilizations through grand gestures. You rebuild them through daily acts of decency, courage, and hope. Hunt was quiet for a moment. That's exactly what the Commonwealth's founders believed. Before we got so big that individual acts of decency got lost in bureaucracy and strategic planning. He looked at Cisco. Your wife is wise, Captain. Don't I know it? Cisco smiled. She keeps me grounded when this job makes me forget what I'm fighting for. Later, as Hunt prepared to return to the Andromeda, Cisco walked him to the airlock. Dylan, Cisco said, first names now. After everything they'd been through, are we making the right choice? Trusting this ceasefire? I don't know, Hunt admitted, but I know that civilization only survives when people are willing to take calculated risks for peace, even when war would be simpler. The Commonwealth survived 3,000 years not because we were the strongest, but because we never stopped believing that cooperation was worth the effort, even when it cost us, even when it failed. And when it failed, you lost everything. But I didn't lose the idea. Hunt's voice carried quiet certainty. That's what I'm fighting for, Captain. Not the Commonwealth as it was, but the Commonwealth as it should have been. A civilization that protects without controlling, that fights when necessary but seeks peace when possible, that remembers that power is a tool, not a right. They shook hands. a simple gesture that felt like sealing an oath. "The Federation and the Commonwealth," Sisko said. "Partners in survival." "Partners in hope," Hunt corrected. "Survival is what you do when you have no choice. Hope is what you do when you choose to believe tomorrow can be better than today, even when everything suggests otherwise." On the Andromeda's bridge, Hunt's crew waited for his return. Beka, Tyre, Harper, and Rami, the broken pieces of a fallen civilization who'd somehow become a family. "Boss," Harper said as Hunt settled into his command chair, "are we really doing this, staying in this universe, fighting someone else's war, building alliances with people who might turn on us?" "We're doing exactly what the High Guard was created to do," Hunt replied. "Defending civilization wherever we find it, against whatever threatens it. The Commonwealth may be gone, but its purpose isn't. As long as the Andromeda flies, as long as we remember what we stood for, the Commonwealth survives. Not as a government or a territory, but as an idea. And ideas, Harper," he smiled, "are harder to kill than worlds." "Poetic," Tyr growled, "also potentially suicidal. But I've followed you this far. Might as well see where this idealism leads." "To victory or glorious death," Beka added with a grin. "Preferably victory, but I'll take what I can get." Romi's android form approached Hunt's chair. "Captain, I've been running projections. If the ceasefire holds and the Federation implements even 20% of our tactical recommendations, the strategic balance shifts dramatically. The Dominion would face extended conflicts against an increasingly effective enemy. The costs would become unsustainable. Peace becomes not just possible, but probable. And if the ceasefire fails, then we fight, like we always have, like we always will." Romi's smile was fierce. "I'm a warship, Captain. Built for combat, designed for survival, programmed for victory. But I was also built to protect civilization. If fighting protects civilization, I fight. If peace protects civilization, I support peace. The goal doesn't change, only the methods." Hunt looked at his crew, human, Nietzschean, and AI, bound together by shared purpose and hard-won trust. "Then we're agreed. We stay. We help the Federation. We show them what the Commonwealth learned about fighting wars and building peace. And we prove that the ideals that built 17 million worlds across 3 galaxies can survive in one ship, in one corner of one galaxy, in a universe that's not even our own." "Assuming we don't get blown up first," Harper muttered. "Always assuming that," Hunt agreed. "But Harper, if we do get blown up, we'll make sure they remember why. We'll make sure the last thing our enemies see is High Guard defiance, because that's what the Commonwealth was. Defiance against entropy, against tyranny, against every force that says civilization must eventually fall. We defied that for 3,000 years. We can defy it a little longer." In the weeks that followed, the ceasefire held, fragile, uncertain, but real. Dominion and Federation forces watched each other across neutral zones, both sides rebuilding, both sides preparing for whatever came next. The Andromeda became a fixture at Deep Space Nine, her golden bronze hull a constant reminder that the universe was larger and stranger than anyone had imagined. Commonwealth technology began filtering into Federation systems, not through forced integration, but through careful cooperation between engineers who respected each other's approaches. The Dominion, true to the Founder's word, pulled back from offensive operations. But intelligence reports showed they were building ships, training forces, and developing new tactics. The ceasefire was a pause, not an ending. And in the depths of space beyond known territories, other forces stirred. The Magog, scattered by the world ship's destruction, regrouped. The Borg, detecting new technologies worth assimilating, turned their attention toward Federation space, and rumors spread of other threats, other civilizations, other wars waiting in the dark. But for now, in this moment, there was hope. Deep Space Nine stood, battered but unbroken, defended by Federation courage and Commonwealth firepower. The Andromeda Ascendant flew, the last High Guard vessel, carrying forward the ideals of a fallen civilization, and two captains, one from a galaxy struggling to survive, one from a civilization determined to rebuild, proved that sometimes the best way to honor the past was to fight for the future. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The Commonwealth's ghost had found new purpose. The Federation's idealism had found new teeth. And the universe, vast, dangerous, and full of wonders, was about to learn what happened when two civilizations that should never have met decided to stand together against the dark. The story of the Andromeda Ascendant's arrival in the Star Trek universe wasn't just about battles won or enemies defeated. It was about proving that idealism could survive even the death of civilizations. That hope could persist through 3 centuries of frozen time. That one ship, carrying the memories of 17 million worlds, could inspire a galaxy fighting for its survival. Captain Dylan Hunt's journey from the Commonwealth's fall to its potential rebirth showed that civilizations aren't defined by territory or numbers, but by the principles they defend and the courage to defend them. The Andromeda, last of the High Guard, became more than a warship. She became a symbol that power without purpose was meaningless, but purpose armed with power could change history. The Federation, struggling against the Dominion's tyranny, found an unexpected mirror in the Commonwealth's story. Both civilizations believed in unity through diversity, in cooperation over conquest, in the hard work of building peace rather than the easy brutality of enforcing order. Hunt's arrival reminded them that these ideals weren't weaknesses to overcome, but strengths to embrace, even when, especially when, the cost of defending them seemed unbearable. And in the end, that's what made the difference. Not the Andromeda's missiles or electromagnetic lances or slip fighters, not the Commonwealth's 3,000 years of technological advancement, but the simple, stubborn refusal to surrender the belief that civilization was worth defending, even when everything suggested that fighting was futile. The Commonwealth fell because it forgot this truth. The Federation was in danger of forgetting it too, ground down by war, exhaustion, and the temptation of pragmatic cruelty. Hunt's arrival and his willingness to fight for strangers in a universe not his own reminded both civilizations what they were truly fighting for. Not territory, not victory, not even survival, but the idea that tomorrow could be better than today if enough people were willing to make it so. The Andromeda Ascendant would fly again, into battles unknown, against enemies unimagined, carrying the hopes of two civilizations that refused to accept that darkness must inevitably win. Hunt and his crew would face new threats, new challenges, new tests of their principles, but they would face them as the High Guard always had, with courage, ingenuity, and the absolute conviction that civilization was worth every sacrifice required to defend it. The Commonwealth's legacy lived on, not in territory or population, but in ideals tested by fire and found unbreakable. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, other threats waited, other wars beckoned, other civilizations hung in the balance between survival and extinction. But the Andromeda Ascendant was ready. The High Guard endured, and the universe would learn what the Commonwealth had proven across 3,000 years. That hope, armed with determination, could defeat any enemy, overcome any obstacle, and survive any catastrophe, as long as someone was willing to stand up and fight for what was right, even when the odds suggested that fighting was pointless. Dylan Hunt had made that choice 3 centuries ago. He was still making it today, and he would keep making it tomorrow and every day after, until either the Commonwealth was rebuilt or the universe itself ended, because that's what the High Guard meant. Not surrender, not compromise, not despair, but defiance against entropy, tyranny, and every force that said civilization must eventually fail. The Andromeda Ascendant had entered the Star Trek universe, and the universe would never be the same.